then hit their targets as well, with a total of 14 MOPs dropped against 2 nuclear target areas. All 3 Iranian nuclear infrastructure targets were struck between 6:40 p.m. and 7:05 p.m. Eastern Time. Again, that's about 2:10 in the morning local time in Iran, with the Tomahawk missiles being the last to strike at Esfahan to ensure we retain the element of surprise throughout the operation. Following weapons release, the Midnight Hammer strike package exited Iranian airspace and the package began its return home. We are unaware of any shots fired at the package on the way out. Iran's fighters did not fly, and it appears that Iran's surface-to-air missile systems did not see us. Throughout the mission, we retained the element of surprise. In total, U.S. forces employed approximately 75 precision-guided weapons during this operation. This included, as the President stated last night, 14 30,000-pound GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrators, marking the first ever operational use of this weapon. I know that battle damage is of great interest. Final battle damage will take some time, but initial battle damage assessments indicate that all 3 sites sustained extremely severe damage and destruction. More than 125 U.S. aircraft participated in this mission, including B-2 stealth bombers, multiple flights of 4th and 5th generation fighters, dozens and dozens of air refueling tankers, a guided missile submarine, and a full array of intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance aircraft, as well as hundreds of maintenance and operational professionals. As the Secretary said, this was the largest B-2 operational strike in U.S. history and the second longest B-2 mission ever flown, exceeded only by those in the days following 9/11. Well prior to the strike, General Kurilla elevated force protection measures across the region, especially in Iraq, Syria, and the Gulf. Our forces remain on high alert and are fully postured to respond to any Iranian retaliation or proxy attacks, which would be an incredibly poor choice. We will defend ourselves. The safety of our service members and civilians remains our highest priority. This mission demonstrates the unmatched reach, coordination, and capability of the United States military. In just a matter of weeks, this went from strategic planning to global execution. This operation underscores the unmatched capabilities and global reach of the United States military. As the President clearly said last night, no other military in the world could have done this. I join the President and the Secretary in being incredibly proud of the air crews, naval forces, cyber operators, planners, and support teams, and commanders who made this mission possible. It is their skill, discipline, and teamwork that makes this operation possible. I am particularly proud of our discipline related to operational security, something that was of great concern to the President, the Secretary, General Kurilla, and me, and we will continue to focus on this. As we stand here this morning, many assets are still airborne, and we have hundreds deployed. I ask that we keep our warfighters on their way home and our deployed service member in our thoughts. Our joint force remains ready to defend the United States, our troops, and our interests in the region. Thank you very much.
We will take a few questions, Phil.
Me?
Yeah.
So, is regime change off the table, Mr. Secretary? And to the chairman, you said the battle damage assessment is still ongoing, but do you believe that some nuclear capability in Iran remains?
This mission was not and has not been about regime change. The President authorized a precision operation to neutralize the threats to our national interests posed by the Iranian nuclear program and the collective self-defense of our troops and our ally Israel.
Thanks for your question. I think BDA is still pending, and it would be way too early for me to comment on what may or may not still be there. But thanks for the question.
Green. No, behind you.
Excuse me, Mr. Secretary, can you tell me, was there a particular moment when the president decided to pull the trigger on this operation where he said, now, rather than being, something in the holster, now we're going to pull the trigger on it?
I would just say, having the opportunity to witness his leadership, he was fully committed to the peace process. Wanted a negotiated outcome, gave Iran every single opportunity, and unfortunately was met by stonewalling, which is why he gave them plenty of time to continue to come to the table and give up enrichment, give up the nuclear program. But there was I won't say the particular moment, there was certainly a moment in time where he realized that it had to be a certain action taken in order to minimize the threat to us and our troops. Yeah.
General, you say that General Kurilla increased force protection in Iraq, Syria, and Gulf, in those areas. Were they given any advance warning the attacks were coming? And also, Mr. Secretary, when were congressional leaders notified? How long before the attacks took place?
Sure. To your first question, the risk has clearly been rising over the last few weeks in the region. Based on that, and not a particular awareness of this operation, we've made smart decisions to minimize the risk to U.S. forces in the region.
So they were given no advance warning?
No, sir.
And congressional?
They were notified after the planes were safely out. Well, we complied with the notification requirements of the War Powers Act.
After the attacks, they were notified?
They were immediately thereafter. Yes.
Thank you, Secretary. Two quick questions. Do you believe you completely destroyed Iranian nuclear program? And how about Iranian ballistic missiles? Your ally Israel always saying that is biggest threat. And second question is very important. What will be your next step if Iran or militias under Iranian influence in the region attack U.S. interests or allies in the region?
And you can chime in on this too, Mr. Chairman. The battle damage assessment is ongoing, but our initial assessment, as the chairman said, is that all of our precision munitions struck where we wanted them to strike and had the desired effect. Which means especially in Fordo, which was the primary target here, we believe we achieved destruction of capabilities there. Ultimately, wherever it may be, whether it's in Iraq or Syria or bases in the Gulf, as the president said, it would be as the chairman said, it would be a very bad idea for Iran or its proxies to attempt to attack American forces. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Regarding retaliations, Iran and North Korea are cooperating on nuclear and missile development. Do you think there is a possibility that Iran, North Korea, and the other forces, such as China, will join forces to retaliate against the United States?
Well, unfortunately, because of the policies under the previous administration, we drove those countries together, and ultimately that creates a challenging environment. For this particular operation, the focus is on Iran and Iranian nuclear capabilities. That's our focus here, is to not just say that they can't have, but President Trump has said from over 20 years, frankly, Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. And ultimately, he decided this is the moment, given their stonewalling, when direct military action had to be taken to prevent that from happening. Yes?
Thank you very much. General Kane, I understand OPSEC, I respect OPSEC. Can you say at all what security procedures are being taken to protect U.S. troops in Iraq and elsewhere in the Middle East? And Secretary Hegseth, as a global war on terrorism veteran, what do you say to veterans who may be concerned the U.S. is getting into another open-ended war in the Middle East over weapons of mass destruction?
Thanks, sir, for the question. I won't comment on what force protection measures are being taken in the region. What I will say is we're being proactive and not reactive, and being very thoughtful about ensuring that we do all that we can to protect our forces out there.
And I would just say, as the president has directed and made clear, this is most certainly not open-ended. It doesn't mean it limits our ability to respond. We will respond if necessary. The most powerful military in the world is postured and prepared to defend our people. But what the president gave us, as I said, was a focused, powerful, and clear mission on the destruction of Iranian nuclear capabilities. Those were the targets. That's what was struck. That's what was overwhelming. That's what was overwhelming. That's what the Iranian regime needs to understand, as the president put out last night. He wants peace. There needs to be a negotiated settlement here. We ultimately demonstrated that Iran cannot have a nuclear capability. That is a very clear mission set on this operation. Yes, hold on. Yes, right there.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Question for the Secretary and the Chairman. How was this strike coordinated with the Israelis on a strategic level, militarily, and on a tactical level? Was there any direct Israeli military participation in this operation?
Well, I would say certainly Israel had an incredible military success, especially at the beginning and ongoing, in degrading Iranian capabilities, in degrading Iranian launchers, MRBMs. It's been incredible to watch what our ally Israel has been able to do. And there certainly have been conversations. I mean, General Kurilla at CENTCOM has worked closely in the defense of Israel for many years. And part of this operation was the defense of Israel and the ongoing defense of Israel. But as it pertains to this strike, this was U.S. operated and U.S. led.
We took advantage of some of the preparatory work that's been done over the past week and a half in terms of axis of approach. I won't get into the particulars, but as the Secretary said, it was a U.S. strike. We made sure we were not in the same piece of airspace and sky. Aside from that, that was the extent of it.
We'll take a couple more. Yeah, right there.
Question to the Secretary first. Are you concerned whatsoever now about the reaction from U.S. allies given the strike, particularly those in the Gulf? And to the Chairman, if I may, I understand you don't want to speak to specific assets and force protection measures, but do you anticipate at least having to bring in any further assets from other theaters to aid in force protection over the coming days?
We certainly understand the challenges of allies in the region, and we have been respectful and in working in collaboration with them as it pertains to basing and sensitivities there. Ultimately, they've got a lot of assets and people in those locations also where American troops are co-located. So that's a consideration of ours. We've been in close consultation with them, and we appreciate the support that we have gotten.
Thanks for the question on sort of the global picture. And as you know, that's one of my jobs, is to look globally at the entire range of challenges. We are always carefully considering our force posture around the world, and then offering options to the Secretary and to the President. I won't comment on any future things, but the American people should know that we carefully consider those moves around the world and try to modulate as needed our force structure in the region.
Absolutely. Yeah, right here.
Thank you. What communications are being sent to the Iranians right now, and is there any possibility of diplomacy now or in the coming days?
I can only confirm that there are both public and private messages being directly delivered to the Iranians in multiple channels, giving them every opportunity to come to the table. They understand precisely what the American position is, precisely what steps they can take to allow for peace, and we hope they do so. Yes.
The president may not want an open-ended conflict. The Iranians may disagree. Are you prepared for a protracted war?
Well, anything can happen in conflict. We acknowledge that. But the scope of this was intentionally limited. That's the message that we're sending. With the capabilities of the American military, nearly unlimited. So Iran, in that sense, has a choice. But we've made it very clear to them, this is nuclear sites, this is nuclear capabilities, this is the line that the president set, and we set that back. Now is the time to come forward for peace. But I think one of the takeaways from this as well is the unprecedented level of ongoing cooperation. I can't speak highly enough of the chairman and his staff and General Kurilla in CENTCOM, what they've done to look around the corner, to pre-position, to understand how an operation like this comes together. The scope and scale of what occurred last night would take the breath away of almost any American if you had an opportunity to watch it in real time. And I think Tehran is certainly calculating the reality that planes flew from the middle of America in Missouri overnight, completely undetected over 3 of their most highly sensitive sites, and we were able to destroy nuclear capabilities. And our boys in those bombers are on their way home right now. We believe that'll have a clear psychological impact on how they view the future, and we certainly hope they take the path of negotiated peace. But I could not be more proud of how this building operated, of the precision, the sensitivity, and the professionalism of the troops involved in this effort. I will take one more. We'll take one more question. Yes, right there.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Concerning the justification for these strikes, in March, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence released their threat assessment, concluding, quote, Iran is not building a nuclear weapon, and Khamenei has not authorized the nuclear programs he suspended in 2003, unquote. So what new intelligence does the U.S. have since then that the Iranians have changed their position on nuclear weapons? And does this new intelligence come from U.S. sources and methods, or are we getting this information from other countries?
Well, I would just simply say that the president's made it very clear. He's looked at all of this, all of the intelligence, all of the information, and come to the conclusion that the Iranian nuclear program is a threat, and was willing to take this precision operation to neutralize that threat in order to advance American national interests, reduce the Iranian nuclear program, and obviously collective self-defense of ourselves and our allies. So he looked at all of it, understood the nature of the threat, and took bold action I think the American people would expect in a commander-in-chief. That's all we've got. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Mr. Chairman.
Chairman of CENTCOM and the U.S. Defense Secretary come out and hold a press briefing. We have some details of what has now happened. The operation took off from the Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri at 1 minute past midnight Eastern Time. This involved B-2 bombers. The reason it involved B-2 bombers, which operated from the mainland United States of America, was because they were carrying the GBU-57, the massive ordnance penetrator, which weighs 13.5 tons and is 20 feet long. And only the B-2 bomber has the capacity of carrying this munition. The B-2 bombers flew from Missouri. They were refueled over the eastern seaboard of the United States of America, refueled again over the North Atlantic Ocean, then refueled again over the Mediterranean Sea before they crossed Israel, then flew over Jordan before crossing Iraq and entering Iran. The estimated time of entry into Iranian airspace was at 1800 hours Eastern Time. Iran is about 7.5 hours ahead. So that would be about 1:30 a.m. Iranian time was when the strike fleet entered Iranian airspace. They were joined at the Iraq-Iran border by the bomber support package, they are calling it. And these were aircraft that were launched from either the Arabian Gulf or the Arabian Sea, from aircraft carrier groups, of which we are assuming at this point of time at least 2 are operating in this region. So from the 2 aircraft carrier groups, there were fighter aircraft that were deployed. There could have been fighter aircraft deployed from other US air bases en route as well. A total of 125 aircraft took part in this operation. 75 munitions were dropped, including 14 of the massive ordnance, the GBU-57s. So 14 GBUs. We know that Tomahawk missiles were used as well, and those Tomahawk missiles were used at the very end, fired from ships that took out the targets at the southernmost point, which was the facility operating the nuclear enrichment plant. The American Pentagon is telling us that there were no Iranian fighter jets that responded or took off into the sky as a response. So they are saying not a single Iranian jet met them in opposition. They're also saying not a single Iranian surface-to-air missile was fired in opposition. They've pretty clearly said that their cooperation with Israel was that they exploited the access of entry, which means that the radar stations, the SAM batteries, the anti-aircraft batteries, etc., that have already been taken out by the Israelis, giving them an axis of entry through Iraq into Iran, was exploited. But beyond that, these were only American fighter aircraft that were involved. So I repeat, 125 fighter aircraft flew into Iran. The operation lasted for about 1 hour in Iranian airspace. They engaged the targets at about 40 minutes after entering Iranian airspace. So at about 2:10 in the morning Iranian time, when the first base, which was Fordo, which is the northern and westernmost base, was hit, which is the main Iranian or alleged Iranian nuclear base. The operation lasted 20 minutes. It took a further 30 minutes for the aircraft to exfiltrate, at which point of time the bombers exited Iranian airspace and are currently en route back to the Whiteman Air Force Base, which I again repeat is in Missouri in the United States of America. So 125 aircraft refueled at least 3 times. I'm assuming at least 2 aircraft carrier groups, several support aircraft including fighter jets, which has been clearly told were running ahead of the bomber group. They were meant to intercept any Iranian jets or munitions, including surface to air missiles, which were fired to interdict the B-2s. The Pentagon says that no such firing was detected. There was no interdiction whatsoever. So only support, close support was provided, but there were no dog fights. There was no shooting in the sky. The B-2s came in and they went out without interdiction, is what is being claimed by the US Pentagon. There's no reason to disbelieve them, because we have no reports of any American aircraft being engaged, damaged or destroyed at any point of time from the Iranians also. So let's open up this conversation with the information that we have. On the image on your screens is what has been released by the Pentagon. Ambassador Kapoor is with us on the broadcast. Eli Nakht is joining us. He is the deputy mayor of the Israeli township of Ashdod. Haim Itgar is with us. He is a journalist with Channel 12 in Israel. And we have an ex-IDF officer joining us as well, Benny. Thanks to you all. Let me just touch base with Ambassador Kapoor before I come to all of you. Ambassador Kapoor, you perhaps had a chance to hear a part of the briefing. The Americans are saying only we could have done an operation of such a grand scale, where from North America all the way to Iran, our B-2 bombers went in and came out, hit our targets. Significant damage, they say, has been incurred by the Iranians. Your thoughts?
Well, I think the scale of the operation was very massive. If you have 125 Air Force assets of the US flying over, half the world practically, being refueled, some of them being refueled 3 times to reach their targets, and then dropping 14 MOPs, massive ordnance penetrators, the GBU-57s. It is something quite mind-boggling, and not to meet with any resistance or any counter-attack or any sort of missiles being fired on these aircraft. A lot of credit has to go to Israel for all the preliminary work that they have done. So I think it has been an operation which will be talked about for a very long time. And the conduct of the operation from the viewpoint of the Americans and Israelis is extremely successful. So, a lot of the capabilities and capacities of Iran would have been impacted. And of course, to reduce them to zero is not something which can be done very easily. But it is a very big setback in the sense for Iran to come back to where it was till yesterday. Will take a lot of time.
Okay, so let's now on brass tacks that yes, indeed, because the Iranians are not claiming to have attempted to target or damaged or destroyed any American aircraft. They're not even claiming that. We are several hours into this now. The Americans say that not a single Iranian fighter jet took to the sky, and not a single surface to air missile was fired, and they can't record any other munition that was fired in their direction either. So which would indicate that the Iranians either did not see them coming, or if they saw them coming, because it's not a surprise, this has been going on for several weeks now. So they didn't see them coming, which means they were blinded. And even if they saw them coming, they were unable to respond both with missiles and with aircraft, which means, and it would be not unreasonable to conclude, that Iran does not have air dominance over its own airspace as we speak, which is not good news if you're sitting and observing this in Iran. Now, Hegseth has gone to point out that this was a specific operation done by the United States in coordination with the Israelis, but this was a US-led operation involving US aircraft, which was limited, he uses the word, limited to Iran's nuclear facilities and nothing beyond. And they have no intention, they say, that this operation was not intended at regime change. This was an operation targeting Iran's nuclear facilities only. Now, what do you make of these two statements, sir?
Well, the first statement is very clearly what is parallel or similar to the situation between India and Pakistan, where India very clearly targeted Pakistani terrorist sites in the first round of attacks, training camps and terrorist centers. And when Pakistan responded very, very disproportionately and incorrectly, not only on military sites but on civilian areas also. Then India responded further on military sites. So similarly, Americans have made it very clear that were there to be any Iranian response on American bases or American soldiers or any American assets anywhere, then the response by the US will be something overwhelming. And I think currently the Iranians are in no position to take such a risk. I don't think even the Houthis, which are about the only surviving proxies of Iran, which have some capacities at this point of time, because the Hezbollah has been degraded to a very great extent. The Hamas has been degraded to a very great extent. We have already seen what has happened in Syria. We have already seen what has happened in Iraq in terms of the, whatever proxies which Iran still has on the ground in Iraq. So to that extent, I do not think that there will be any serious effort by Iran. So for Iran, the probable course of action will be to seek the support of the international community for peace and to give up its nuclear ambitions and to make a categorical declaration that Israel has a right to exist and Jews have a right to exist and carry on with their lives.
Okay, easier said than done, given the theocratic nature of the regime in Iran. So yes, that would be ideal. Chances of that happening not high, but the military reality currently is that Iran does not have control over its own sovereign airspace, and there's no taking away from that. That does not mean they have no ability to respond to anything. That's not the assumption to be drawn here. It's not a walkover state. I don't think the Americans or the Israelis are countenancing any boots on the ground, whichever way they go. Iran is a large country, both geographically, it's a population of almost 100 million. It has an effective fighting force. So I don't want to take that leap of faith. But in terms of large tracts, and you can imagine that they knew that these are the main nuclear sites, our nuclear sites, that they are going to come for these nuclear sites sooner or later, and even then, no surprise, were unable to respond at all, would indicate that they do not have air dominance over Iranian airspace at this point of time. Okay, breaking developments coming in. This is a statement from the Turkish Foreign Ministry, which has come out and said that, I quote, US strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities have raised the risk of the regional conflict spreading globally. Ankara is deeply concerned about possible repercussions following the attacks. In a statement, spread of military conflict, they say, into a wider global war must not be allowed. We call on all parties to act with responsibility and end attacks immediately. only negotiations can solve the dispute between Tehran and Washington. So, not going so far as to condemn the American airstrikes, because Turkey is supposed to be a NATO ally, so they won't go that far. But at the same time, not exhilarating at them either. Turkey walking some fine line in between, not an easy situation to do. Far more vocal when it came to supporting Pakistan in terror strikes against India. Okay. Ambassador Kapoor, stay with me. Let me sort of open up this conversation to the best I can with our guests who are joining us from Israel. Eli Nacht, as I mentioned, is with us. General Sudhakar is also with us. General Sudhakar, I'm just coming to you in a second, sir. Eli Nacht, let me come to you and let's just take just an assessment from where you are. I have had the privilege of visiting Ashdod a year or two ago. We are getting reports, sir, of explosions and a couple of waves of Iranian attempted strikes into Israel. How are things as you are placed right now?
Right now, the situation is quiet. We didn't have any direct hits into Ashdod. We have the sirens that alarming of the missiles were coming, and thank God we didn't get any hits for right now. Let's hope it will stay like that.
Is there a remaining concern that Iran will try to retaliate and has the potential to further retaliate?
I have no doubt about their motivation of trying to make a damage and make a big hit on Israel. I have no doubt about that. I'm not sure that they have the capabilities they wish to, but we need to be very careful, since all the ballistics rockets that being shot into Israel, each one of those ballistic rockets, and just this morning we have a couple dozens of those, okay, and they cause a lot of damage and a lot of injured people and killing people. So each rocket is of course deadly and very dangerous, but comparing to what they would like to see their attack and comparing to what they thought they are capable of and desire to target Israel thousands of rockets in the same time or something like that, as they were telling, I have to say that the comparison to what they are saying to what they're doing is a big difference. So everybody right now in the state of Israel is trying to stay close to the bomb shelter because it's life-saving, and we hope it will of course pass away soon. And we are giving all the space and time to our army to clear all the threat, all the arsenal and the ammunition and everything that is threatening the state of Israel from Iran. And of course, I'm very glad that the United States joined this effort, and they did a very important job this night.
Okay.
For the peace of the world.
Okay, as an Israeli citizen and as a deputy mayor responsible, you will have friends and family. Given what's happened over the past almost 2 years now in Gaza, then in Lebanon, from the pagers to the walkie-talkies to what's happened in Qatar, subsequently now what has happened in Iran over the past week or so, do you feel safer?
Yes, of course. I feel much safer, and we can see it. We can see it in reality because Iran, during all those years, many of years, they were giving weapons to Hezbollah and to the Hamas and to other proxy terror organizations with one wish, with one desire, that in the real time when Iran will go to war with Israel, everybody will join and attack Israel. And we can see today that Hezbollah and Hamas is neutralized, that they are incapable of going to war with Israel, and it left us the ability to take care of Iran without being worried about our civil society from the north border, from the south border, and from many other places that if on the let's say 2 years ago we've been talking about this, of course much more damage, much more rockets were shot into Israel from Hamas and from Hezbollah and from Iran if this will take place back then. So
okay, so
today,
Eli, I have to ask you, and I know this is your personal opinion, you don't speak for government in this sense, but in your personal opinion, has enough been done? Can it stop now? Or the reality is that unless there's regime change in Iran, it'll all come back?
I can give you my understanding, and I believe this is the most understanding of the most Israelis. Okay, this is of course not an official statement and not an official position of our government, but this is what we as a citizens feel. We feel that we need, as I said before, to give to our IDF, to our army, the ability to finish their work. You can see that Israel is not targeting and is not hitting none of the civilians in Iran. All the population of the civil population, innocent people, we love those people, we care about them, and we are not fighting the Iranians as a nation, and we are fighting the radical terror regime, who is also a big damage to their own population. And I think there is still things to be done on the army level in taking care of the ballistic program, take care of maybe the uranium that they've been delivered to a different place, take care for all the factories that create those deadly drones, and so on and so on. So we are ready to wait, we are ready to suffer much more until our army will finish with all the threat.
Okay, so when you say finish, what is the finish? What is the end point?
There is a army endpoint and there is the political endpoint, okay? So on the army endpoint, I told you, when our army said that we demolished and damaged all the capabilities of Iran to create weapon against Israel, this is number one. When they said that the bank of targets is finished and their intelligence, as they have it right now, everything was taken care of on regarding the army level, it's one thing. The other thing is the political negotiations and some sort of agreement that needs to be, of course, forced and being able to guarantee our safety by the United States, I believe, and maybe some other mediator, maybe the Emirates or some other countries who can guarantee our safety, that Iran tomorrow will not start once again recreating and manufacturing weapon, nuclear program, etc., etc.
Okay, all right. I have one last question for you. Israel has, of course, gone to war with its immediate neighbors. Are you more hopeful of future associations with the Egyptians, with Jordan, with Saudi Arabia? You mentioned the Emiratis in the UAE. Are you more hopeful that Iran, as far as you see it, is more isolated in the Arab world?
I have a very, very big hope, okay? And I am very optimistic regarding the Middle East, the new Middle East that is going to be. I know, and you know, that the Emirates and the Gulf countries and Saudi, everybody is glad more than even Israel that Iran has been right now disconnected from their nuclear capabilities. We saw during this war right now that Jordan the country was helping Israel and taking care of all the drones that were coming on their airspace. And I hope that the Abraham agreements will be expanded to more countries right now in the region, because some of those countries were afraid of Iran and their proxies. Now they understand that they have much more freedom and of taking action even against the will of Iran, and doing what they really need and want, and joining the coalition of Israel, Emirates, United States, and all those tolerant, normal countries who wish prosperity to their nations and not building bombs.
Okay,
So
one last quick question.
I believe we will have much more friendly.
In the city of Ashdod itself, which has seen over many years the brunt of the rocket strikes from the Gaza Strip, have they all gone now? Have they all stopped?
Yes.
Okay, Eli Nacht, Deputy Mayor of Ashdod, joining us to give his perspective, his personal viewpoints on this. Thank you very much for joining us. I still have General Sudhakar with me, and General Sudhakar, I want to now just go through the entire summary of what all has happened so that we can just put a perspective on very rapidly changing developments. Let's put this on our screens. So, ladies and gentlemen, here we are. Okay, now this is just a quick map to put you in geographical perspective before we begin. Okay, let's just blow this up on our screens. Okay, so that we are absolutely sure of what we're doing. Okay, so marked in the blue in the west, that's Israel. Okay, Iraq, Iran, Pakistan. Okay, let's quickly take this on. In fact, let me just come to you in just a quick second. I have more breaking developments coming in, and before that, I'm expecting to also get the Israeli ambassador to India joining us on the broadcast. I need to take a very, very short break. I'm told 1 minute, and we are back to pick this up.
अगर आप बनना चाहते हैं एंकर या फिर आप में है जुनून एक तेज तर्रार न्यूज रिपोर्टर बनने का, तो आप ज्वाइन करें ITV और इंडिया न्यूज NewsX का मीडिया स्कूल। ITV नेक्स्ट मीडिया इंटरनेशनल स्कूल का कोर्स आपको मौका देता है देश के दिग्गज एंकर्स के साथ